Saturday morning rant, folks. Saturday morning rant. Clearly it's not morning because I'm using the light in this car to make this work. Just been a long day, long week. Got a lot of clients at gym trainers that are in crisis. What does that really mean? This week it means that, like, I'm going to talk about people. So last week I talked about people who work at nonprofits that get fired and then go out and contact the media and try to do hit pieces. Because I feel like I got to be fair. Like, nonprofits are fucked up and racist and all sorts of shit wrong with them. I mean, I know corporate places are like that too, but nonprofits is where people be acting like, you know, it's a different thing going on or whatever. But this week it was like more, I want to talk more stuff about staff and how staff show up. And I know I'm usually the one defending staff at nonprofits, but I want to talk about staff who are like incompetent and who probably got hired for the wrong reasons and didn't get invested in, or not interested in being invested in, not wanting to do work to be, you know, stronger employees. And then they get fired, or they decide that they just gonna like start shit at the nonprofit, and they do it under the pretext of racism. So everybody know there's racism in nonprofits, but like for you to like literally pimp out racism instead of just dealing with your own shit, because that's what I'm dealing with all week. I'm dealing with staff that's accusing nonprofits of racism because they don't want to deal with the fact that like they might be a mediocre employee. And last week I was talking about people who got fired. I'm talking about people now who literally are on the job, fucking it up, not delivering. Like, you knew when you work for a nonprofit that you had to deliver. Like, that's just how the fuck it works these days. Like, philanthropy gives nonprofits money. Nonprofits put together all this shiny material for them, a budget, a concept paper, a one-pager. They take them on a fucking tour when they should be serving clients. Like, they do all of that, but then guess what? When they get the money, that shit means they gotta deliver. And that's how you got a job. Like, whether you like it or not, you chose that shit. Like, if you didn't want to do that, you shouldn't work for a nonprofit. You should just work for, I don't know, fucking commune or some shit. But if you work for a nonprofit and you know you got to deliver and you know you signed up for it and you know you're getting a salary, and if you get a decent salary, because some nonprofits pay decent, and then you fuck it up, and then people trying to hold you accountable, and then like all over your social media, everyone can tell that you got all this fucking pent up trauma that you haven't dealt with, and then you decide that you want to use that nonprofit space to do it, and every time somebody wants to have a meeting with you about your performance, you want to be like, this shit is racism, this shit is racism, this shit is white supremacy. Some shit is white supremacy, but you kind of signed up for that shit. Like, if you work for a nonprofit, what the fuck is not white supremacist about the fact that you know that money comes from foundations that have literally amassed their money through like taking advantage of labor, going all the way back to days of slavery, like people who have generational wealth? Like, how the fuck you think foundations are founded? And now just because you show up as mediocre, you want to call that shit racism. And the worst part about it is that there are people who are dealing with racism at work. There are people who are dealing with executive directors that engage in white supremacy culture. All that shit does exist. But you, with your lame ass, who is deciding to just use that as a way to get your job, keep your job, not be held accountable, not have supervision meetings, get the organization to do what? To hire black people and brown people. Great, except what I've seen lately, since the George Floyd moment is over and now we got all these George Floyd fellows at all these nonprofits, is now you got black and brown leadership and they become the man. How the fuck did that happen? How the fuck did black and brown people become the man? Like, after George Floyd, y'all insisted that white people leave and that we get black folks and brown folks in those positions, and we did. And now here it is a year or two later, and because you can't get a $5,000 raise because you're a mediocre ass, you want to call that shit racism, and you want to attack the black and brown ED and say that it's white supremacy culture and they're carrying water for white supremacy. Sometimes that shit is true. Most time it's not. Most time it's your lame ass that doesn't want to do any training, doesn't want to learn how to do budgets, doesn't want to learn how to deliver programs, doesn't want to stick to milestones, doesn't want to keep records, doesn't want to do data entry, whatever the fuck it is you don't want to do that suddenly has become racism. You need to give that two thoughts. Reconsider working in nonprofit. I'm sure there are places where you work where you can show up as super mediocre. There's got to be George Floyd fellowships in the private sector for you. But I'm so tired of this shit. And, you know, it keeps me doing business. It keeps me helping nonprofits. But for you, you're not going to win. Like, you're not gonna win. What are you trying to get? $30,000-$40,000 to leave? I mean, come on. Like, folks, I'm sorry to be talking to my own people like this, but I just see this shit so often. I just spent the whole week dealing with this shit at 3 different fucking nonprofits. Like, get your shit together. That's all. That's what I gotta say. I probably should have said it early this morning, but here we are. Saturday morning rant. Don't let anybody steal your rainbow after this. Try to have a good Sunday. Peace.